Hello there my friends who listen to Ebird Online, and I'm back with another review. And today we're back perhaps for the final time in Ethiopia, where Ariela and baby Avi are getting ready for their trip back to the US. And guys, this episode really had me in tears. Regardless of my thoughts of Binyam and his previous behaviour, this is a desperately sad situation. And I honestly believe that we're bearing witness to the virtual breakup of this young family. So this is 90 Day Fiance, 90 Days the Other Way, Season 3, Episode 7, Ariela and Binyam. And guys, if you haven't done so yet, please don't forget to like, subscribe and all of that good stuff. It's fun over here. And also, if you don't want to miss any of my future videos, please don't hesitate to press the notification bell. And so without further ado, I give you Ariela and Binyam. And so when we first see this couple, Ariela is busy packing. Not just her suitcase, but seemingly her whole relationship. And Ariela tells production, even though I'm only going for 1 month, Binyam is still struggling to trust that I'll be back. You don't say, Ariela. In fact, not only Binyam, but everybody who knows you, and even some who don't. After all, you've only been threatening to leave for the whole 11 months that you've been there. And the only thing that I'm surprised at is that you're surprised. And Binyam's standing next to her as she packs and he says, don't go, please don't go. And so in a desperate bid to prove she's going to be back, Ariela shows Binyam the contents of her wardrobe. And she opens the double doors and says, look, here are all my clothes. Look at everything I've left. That should prove to you that I'll be back. Guys, I hate to be so relentlessly negative, although I am rather comfortable in that space. But I do have to admit, I paused the video whilst it was on her wardrobe, and when I had a good close look at all the clothes she was gesturing to, I couldn't help but notice they're all her Ethiopian clothes. Ariela, there's very little need for traditional Ethiopian dress in New Jersey. It's clear to me she's packed all her Western clothes to go. And if I really think about it, I believe that what's left is her charity box rail. I really do. But even if it's not, let's assess, what does fashion really mean to Ariela? Her fingernails, her hair, her Bozo the Clown makeup, and her jeans all tell me that she has no concept or use for fashion. Therefore, her leaving clothes behind means, as far as I'm concerned, really not much at all. It's performative at best and lazy at least. I hate to break it to you, Binny, but that's a wardrobe that says, maybe I'll be back, maybe I won't. The future's in Leandro's hands. That's what that wardrobe says. But Binny hasn't noticed any of that. He's still standing there, glum-faced, saying you still have time to change your mind. And Ari looked at him and she said, did you take my passport again? What? And Ariela lets us all know via production that Binyam stole and hid her passport yesterday. And then she further tells us, I was very upset and I feel like that was a really aggressive act towards me. But then she went on to say, I do forgive him because I realise he's still traumatised about his ex-wife and his son. And he did give it back to me almost immediately. And Binny said, I was so stressed, I don't want to lose my family again. So this to me again is Ariela kind of playing a bit for the cameras. Ariela, why would you say that's an aggressive act towards you if he immediately gave you the passport back? It wasn't an act towards you at all. It was an act to try and keep his son in the country, to keep his son by his side. And guys, I really didn't like the way that she framed that incident. It was in no way aggressive in my mind. It was a desperate act by a desperate man. An act of aggression would have been to go to the Ethiopian authorities and try and prevent you from taking baby Avi abroad for his treatment. And as Ariela continues to pack, Binny tells production, this whole thing is reminding me of my last relationship. But guys, don't worry, Ari's got something up her sleeve to make him feel better. And Ariela said to Binny, I can't stay. You know, I really want to go home. My parents want to see Avi again, and the rest of my family want to meet Avi. And then she sat on the bed and she said, come over here, sit down. And Binny sat opposite. And she said in Almeric, you are my family until the end of time. And then, just like a magician, she produces a ring from her pocket. And it was a ring for Binny. She knelt down in front of him and she put it onto his finger. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, what a lovely gesture. But then I got to thinking, her giving him a ring is exactly the same as him giving her a ring. It means very little. But then she went on to tell production that she invested the time and the forethought to buy this ring, and hopefully it will help to ease his suffering. So let's consider this for a moment. Ariela talks about the time. Well, Ariela, if there's one thing that you've got on your hands, it's time. You have one child, and also you have one full-time nanny. You have no job and seemingly very few chores. You don't even make your own beds. And also you don't have a social circle in Ethiopia, so you more or less have no friends. So consequently, you spending your time looking for this ring for Binyam means nothing. You haven't invested time because it's the one thing you've got loads and loads of. Next up, the forethought. So you've been engaged to Binny for at least 6 months now. You're worried that Binny goes out and potentially cheats. And as you guys know, I'm with her on that. I think is as shady as all hell. But you didn't have the forethought to give him a ring before. You've only decided to do it now that you're going away for a month. But let's think about what you did have the forethought to do. You had the forethought to lose, allegedly, your ring when Leandro, your ex-boyfriend, was coming over. And you managed to lose it in the shower, although you pretended you had no idea where it was. But yet you admitted at the time that it was the first time ever you'd left the house, sans your engagement ring. That is what you had the forethought to do. And the only thing left, I guess, is the money. And Ariela tells us it's the male replica of the ring that he got for her. What? That piece of cheap crap? Oh Lord. The ring that he just finished telling us cost less than $1. So the one thing that you didn't invest in this ring, much the same as Binyam, I have to admit, was money. Now I know we make a big deal out of engagement rings here in the West, but they do actually mean something because usually the man has to save quite a little bit of money in order to get that engagement ring. If you spend less than the equivalent of a box of eggs, which both of these rings cost, there is no financial investment at all, and in fact it tells us the opposite. It tells us that you fear things might very well go wrong, and if they do, you're not going to be out of pocket. Ariela, this ring speaks volumes, absolute volumes. In fact, it's screaming to me. And so the next time we see this couple, they're standing outside of their house, waiting for a taxi, and baby Avi's crying. It seems that he'll miss Daddy more than Mummy will. And I gotta tell you guys, baby Avi is so cute. He has such a cheeky little face, he's an absolute peach. And so as this trio stand there waiting for a taxi, I note with some interest what Ariela's wearing. A red top and skin-tight ripped jeans. And she looks as if she bought them from AliExpress around 10 years ago. And if it wasn't rammed home earlier, again I'm reminded that clothes mean absolutely nothing to Ari. Very few people can pull off such bright and bold styles and colours. And Ariela's one of them. No guys, but she hasn't got the best sense of dress, you've got to admit. And whilst I'm busy shaking my head at Ariela's clothes, Binyam's speaking to production and he tells them, I feel heavy inside. It's so difficult to send Ari and Avi away with love and peace. And he looks really distraught. But Ariela, on the other hand, well, she decides to tell us that it's 11 months since she's been back to the US. And she's excited for the following, to see her family, to see her friends, and to experience all the things she can do in the US that she can't do in Ethiopia. She doesn't mention that she's going to miss her fiance, as one might do if we were actually in love. She's merely excited for what lays ahead, i.e. she's excited by the prospect of her old life. Guys, things aren't boding well. They're really not. So they go to the airport, and as they stand saying their goodbyes, Binny fully breaks down. He grabs baby Avi in both hands, and he smothers him in kisses. Ariela says, I'll call you every day, I want you to call me every day. And Ari finally says to producers, it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, to leave Binny behind. But when I do come back, it will make us stronger. And once more, baby Avi's crying. And as Ariela walks off, Binny says, no, come back. And he plants about 3 more kisses on baby Avi's face. And Binny says, I want to be strong, it's just hard. And guys, this is the part that made even Ebird's eyes water. Binny tells production, I'm getting severe flashbacks now of what happened before. And then he breaks out into tears. And he says, when I think about my other son, and he couldn't finish, he said, I love him so much. And I haven't seen him in 2 years. And as his voice breaks, he starts sobbing uncontrollably. But unfortunately for Binny, this is all happening now. And then we see Ari and Avi walk up the ramp towards the airport. And Binny says finally, I don't want this to happen to me again. But guys, something struck me about this scene. And I didn't think about it straight up, but when I was editing this video, I had to go back to have a look and check what I thought was correct was actually the case. Even though Ari was quite tearful and she kissed Binny quite a few times just before they left, I kind of got a very different flex when Leandro left. She was much more exuberant and she was flinging her arms around him. And I think at one point he said, wow, you're squeezing me so tightly. But with Binny, when Binny ran behind her to kiss baby Avi again, and then he put his arm around her to kiss her again, she kind of had the body language that said, come on, I've got to get off, I've got to go. Who knows, it may have just been that she was actually late for the plane or she feared not getting on the plane, and that could be totally true. But I definitely felt it was different on Ariela's part, Binny leaving as opposed to Leandro leaving. I really just did. And that's where we leave things for this week. And so what does the Ebird make to all of this? Well, something tells me it's the very last that Binny will see of Ariela on Ethiopian soil. Now I've got to say, if I hadn't have seen the trailer from last week when Ariela was telling Binny, "You've spent the last 2 months destroying your marriage," and telling him she wasn't coming back, I would be in two minds as to what was happening. But really there is kind of an air of finality as Ariela walks away. And if I'm really honest, all she has in the whole of Ethiopia is Binny. And that relationship, let's be fair, is shaky at best. She's already told us she doesn't have any friends there, and her best friend, she said, was Mimi, not his sister but Mimi the nanny. If one of your best friends is the paid help, then you don't know that it's a reciprocally friendly relationship, now do you? When payment stops, the friendship stops. Also, she doesn't seem to get on with any of Binny's family, and I have to say his sisters have been quite awful to her, and not just not welcoming. But I remember back to last season when Wish was saying, "Oh, Binny loves foreign girls. He's working back at the club where all the foreign women are." And she was kind of trying to press her buttons. And Wish always rolls her eyes a lot. And whenever she talks to Ari, she has an awful lot of disdain for her. And she's very direct with her and never very friendly at all. His sisters should see what an effect they have on his partners. And also, this is definitely a very fractured relationship on the part of Binny. As Ariela said before, he goes out all night, he doesn't come home. Sometimes he disappears for 48 hours and doesn't call. He has a mobile. She knows because she pays for it. So why he doesn't call is anyone's guess. Well, in fact, not anyone's guess, it's my guess. I think it's because he's up to no good. And whilst I do feel desperately sorry for Binny this week and in his current predicament, and also for the fact he doesn't see his other son, I do think one thing: when you keep doing the same thing again and again, you're going to have the same outcome. We've only ever seen or heard about 3 partners on this programme. Ariela, your ex-wife, and Sion, your ex-girlfriend, and all 3 have very strong suspicions that you cheated on them. Is everybody highly suspicious? Or are you just a shady cheat? I know what I think. And I do hate to be callous about it, and I do feel sorry for Binny, but he considers his own feelings far more than he considers the feelings of his partners. When Ariela was upset because he went out, or when she was feeling bad and wanting to look at his phone to see what he was up to, he tried to gaslight and say, "Oh my god, this girl's too much." And he did exactly the same with Sion. Do you not think that these women feel just as much upset and just as much sorrow and just as tearful as you are in your current predicament? It seems you don't consider that when you're doing wrong. And so Ariela might not be planning on staying, but it's definitely been building up, this whole thing with Leandro. Not just her inviting him over, but also pushing buttons whilst he was here, getting him to bring bras, inviting him out for coffee, but not telling Binny. And also having emotional breakdowns when she's talking about the demise of their relationship. All of this must be very hurtful to Binny. And whilst I don't think that Ari is planning to stay at home, I think this is what's going to happen. When she gets home, she'll remember how great things are with a loving family, living in a nice home where everything's free, and being able to go out to bars and clubs and nice restaurants, and also having Leandro around on tap. Once all of that happens and she sits and thinks about everything, it's going to be very difficult for her to go back to Ethiopia, where all she's really got is a disappearing Binny and some traditional Ethiopian clothes. I do predict that she'll get home and she'll want to stay, but I don't think it's by design. Obviously, baby Avi does really need this hernia operation. It doesn't make any sense at all to have it done in Ethiopia when there's a far higher level of healthcare in the US. It just really doesn't. So guys, let me know what you think. Do you think Binny's brought this on himself by yet again not treating his partner with respect? Do you think Ari's planning to just stay at home, or do you think it was her first intention to come back to Binny? So guys, please let me know down in comments below, and I'll get on with my next video. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed to me thus far, but if you've yet to do so, please don't forget to press that red subscribe button to make Ebird a very happy Ebird. And also, don't forget to smash the like button. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.